The Vacrian armada stretched across the void like a plague of metal locusts, their ships numbering in the thousands. For 3 cycles they had besieged the colony world of Meridian Prime, reducing its once gleaming cities to ash and ruin. The defenders, a coalition of 7 species, fought valiantly but hopelessly. Their shields flickered and died one by one, their weapons barely scratching the Vacrian hull plating that had been perfected over millennia of conquest. Commander Thelrax of the Coalition Defense Force watched his tactical display with growing despair. Red icons dominated the screen, each representing a Vacrian destroyer, cruiser, or dreadnought. His own forces had been reduced to a mere 200 vessels, most damaged beyond effective combat capability. The evacuation transports were still loading refugees from the planet's surface. They needed time he could not give them. "Commander," his communications officer called out, her voice trembling. "We're receiving a transmission. Unknown origin. They're requesting permission to enter the system." Thelrax's mandibles clicked in frustration. "We don't have time for merchants or refugees seeking shelter. Tell them to—" "Sir," the officer interrupted, something like awe creeping into her tone. "They're not asking for shelter. They say they're here to help. They identify themselves as the Human Expeditionary Fleet." The bridge fell silent. Humanity, the species that had joined the galactic community barely 50 standard years ago, a young race curious and energetic but utterly inexperienced in warfare. The galaxy had been at peace during their entire membership. What could they possibly offer against the Vacrian war machine? "How many ships?" Thelrax asked, more out of protocol than hope. "They report 50 vessels, Commander." 50, against thousands. It would be a massacre, but Thelrax was not one to turn away help, regardless of how futile it might be. "Grant them passage. Mark a rally point behind our defensive line." The response came immediately. "Negative, Commander. The humans say they're going in." Before Thelrax could process those words, his sensors officer gasped. "Commander!" Spatial distortions detected at the system's edge. Multiple jump signatures. They're already here." The tactical display erupted with new contacts. 50 human vessels materialized from hyperspace, but not behind the coalition lines where safety and strategy would dictate. They emerged directly in the heart of the Vacrian formation, scattered among the enemy fleet like seeds in wind. "What are they doing?" Thelrax whispered. "They'll be surrounded and destroyed in moments." But the humans weren't destroyed. They were moving. The human ships were smaller than most galactic vessels, sleek and angular where others were bulbous and ornate. They accelerated with impossible speed, their engines burning with a brilliance that spoke of barely controlled power. In the first 3 seconds, they had already traversed distances that should have taken minutes. Then they opened fire. The Vacrian flagship, the Claw of Dominion, had shields rated to withstand sustained bombardment from a dozen dreadnoughts. Those shields evaporated in less than a heartbeat as a human destroyer. A destroyer unleashed a barrage of kinetic rounds traveling at a significant fraction of light speed. The projectiles, simple slugs of tungsten wrapped in ablative coating, struck with the force of small stars. The Claw's hull buckled, split and detonated from within as the rounds punched clean through and exited the other side, each creating its own catastrophic pressure differential. Across the battlefield, the pattern repeated. Human ships danced through the Vacrian formation with an agility that defied their mass, their point defense systems intercepting every incoming missile with mechanical precision. Their weapons, primitive kinetic accelerators, missile swarms, and what appeared to be focused particle beams, struck with devastating accuracy and overwhelming force. The Vacrians tried to respond, their formations wheeled to bring weapons to bear, their targeting computers struggling to lock onto the human vessels that moved in ways their algorithms had never anticipated. When they did manage to fire, their energy weapons splashed harmlessly against human shields that seemed to drink in the energy and redistribute it across their hulls. But it was the humans' tactics that truly horrified the Vacrians. Every species in the galaxy fought with honor, with established doctrine, with predictable patterns that had been refined over thousands of years. The humans fought like nothing the galaxy had ever seen. They split their forces into cells of 3 to 5 ships, each operating with complete autonomy. They struck at weak points with surgical precision, targeting engines, weapon batteries, and command structures. They used the Vacrian ships themselves as cover, forcing the enemy to choose between shooting through their own vessels or holding fire. And they never stopped moving. Not for a second. Not for a breath. Commander Thelrax watched in stunned silence as the tactical display transformed before his eyes. Red icons winked out one after another, each representing a Vacrian vessel reduced to expanding clouds of debris. The humans weren't fighting a battle. They were conducting an execution. 10 minutes. That was all it took. 10 minutes for 50 human ships to shatter an armada that had seemed invincible. The surviving Vacrian vessels, less than 300 of the original thousands, broke formation and fled, their jump drives screaming to life as they desperately sought escape. The human ships did not pursue. Instead, they formed a defensive perimeter around the Coalition fleet and the planet below, their weapons still hot, their shields still blazing. A transmission came through, audio only, in perfect galactic standard. The voice was calm, almost casual. Coalition Defense Force, this is Captain Sarah Chen of the UN's Relentless. The immediate threat has been neutralized. We'll maintain position until your evacuation is complete. Oh, and Commander Thelrax? Sorry we're late. Traffic was hell coming through the Sagittarius arm. Thelrax tried to speak, found his voice had abandoned him and tried again. Captain Chen. How did you... We've studied human combat capabilities. Your weapons are primitive. Your ships are small. How did you do this? There was a pause, and when the human spoke again, Thelrax could hear the smile in her voice. Commander, you made the same mistake the Vacrians did. You assumed that because our technology looks primitive, we don't know how to use it. We've been fighting each other for 10,000 years. We've gotten pretty good at it. The galaxy's been at peace for the last 3 centuries. You've forgotten what war really looks like. The transmission ended, and Thelrax stared at the tactical display where 50 human ships held position against the void. Humanity had entered the galactic stage as students, eager to learn from elder species. But in that moment, watching the debris field that had once been the Vacrian Armada, Thelrax understood a terrible truth. The students had just become the teachers, and the lesson had been written in fire and steel across the stars.